Hi guys, my name's Joe Green, and if you are an audiobook Hi guys, my name's Joe Green, and if you're an audiobook fan, then you've come to the right place. I want to be talking today with you about a book called The Motive. Now, The Motive is written by a guy called Patrick Lencioni. Patrick Lencioni. Now, I heard about this book from Alex Hormozi on one of his podcasts, and I'm just going to give you a little overview of what I thought. If you like this video, guys, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. We've got over 1,000 subscribers now, and I'm just going to carry on my walk while I talk to you. So some of the interesting points that I liked about it, the book says that there are two different kinds of reasons that people go into leadership role. One is for themselves, for the benefits or the trappings of leadership, and the other is what they can give or what they can do for other people and the impact they can have with others. And then it asks, if you're a leader, what's the reason that you do something? So essentially, what I was saying there is there are two different reasons that people go into leadership. One is self-centered, what I can get as a reward, and the other is what can I give, how can I serve? And this is leading to the servant leadership thing that I'm going to talk to in a bit more detail in a minute. Hard to hold my hand up. Now it says the reason that you go into different leadership roles is super important on whether you're going to be successful or not. So ask yourself that question: why did I go into this leadership role? Is it to serve, to work hard, or is it to to get the rewards, the benefits, or the trappings of success? I'm just going to read the other point. Morning. So there are two, I'm just going to read my notes. There are two motives for becoming a leader. One is reward-centered leadership, and that is being a leader for the... So reward-centered leadership is the idea that you've got this role of leadership as a reward for all your hard work. So if you're a leader and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I did such a great job, this is my reward for all my hard work, then maybe you're in the side of the camp, the reward-centered leadership, which is not the one you want to be in. We'll talk in more detail of that in a minute. So the other one is thinking about the motive is a servant or servant leadership, which is where you are there to serve or enhance the value, to manage others, facilitating improvement regardless of tough conversations and uncomfortable truths. So the servant leadership is you're doing it regardless of the hard conversations that you need to have and the uncomfortable truths that you need to share. Now this is a little bit like, not that I know, parenthood, or friendship, or I suppose mentoring to a certain degree. Even if there are uncomfortable truths, you're okay sharing them. Now the other way to think about the motives is as service or servant leadership, which is where you're there to serve, enhance value, to manage to leave others as a reward, as a way to facilitate improvement regardless of tough conversations. Okay, we said that. Talk about different motives, how they can exist in being picked for a sports or a team or a job title. So a way to think about this, if you're struggling, is to think about when you've been picked for a sports team or I'm just going to go here and find a place to prop it up. When you've been picked for a sports team or a new job role, and how you then felt about that. Oh, that's good. I can prop you up there. Brilliant. Okay, great. So he talks about the difference. Okay, note to self. Probably wasn't the best idea. And okay. Right, we're going to continue the video, guys, and we're just going to get it done. So, He talks about responsibility-centered leadership rather than reward-centered leadership, and how responsibility chooses the hard path and does things that are not in the best interest of the organisation, not the individual. Alright, so the opposite of that is what reward-centered leadership is. Right, so he says that there are 5 areas that are typically ignored by leaders. These are the roles that can only be done by leaders, and most leaders abdicate this responsibility. One is developing a leadership team. The other is managing subordinates and making them manage their own subordinates. Third is having difficult and uncomfortable conversations. Trusting someone is not an excuse for not managing them. I think that's quite key. People that complain they don't want to micromanage are often absentee leaders. People who are focused on reward leadership might have a motto of "it's good to be king." This reminds me of a boss that I had. It does remind me of a boss that I had. They might say, "we pay people well, why would we need to manage them? They should manage themselves." But that's not the key, because management is the process of managing individuals. Now, one of the phrases that I enlarged here is the meaning behind this is that management is not a punitive action. Management is helping align individuals' behaviour and actions with the needs of the organisation. Management is not a punitive action. I really like that. Number 4 is running great meetings and the impact of those meetings. So not having great meetings is essentially a leader's responsibility, and by not running great meetings you're abdicating that responsibility. So that's interesting. Constantly communicating. He says a chief executive officer should also be known as the chief repeating officer, because it's their job to repeat and continue to drive home the messages continuously and consistently. These 5 things are points that leaders most often neglect, but it's also things that are most ideally suited to, and ones that can only be done by the leader. He said he wants to make an end to servant leadership because that is the only kind of leadership that there is, and reward-centered leadership is essentially not only a waste of time, but it's detrimental to the organisation. So my overview of this is, yes, this is a really good book. If you're in a leadership role or you want to take on a leadership role, I definitely recommend listening to it, because it talks about how essentially there is servant leadership, which is kind of the only kind of leadership that there is, and then there is reward-centered leadership, which is I've got this role because I'm so great, I deserve to relax now, all that kind of stuff. And when that's how you feel, you're not going to actively manage and have the harder conversations with your subordinates and the people below you. So I really enjoyed this book. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't my most enjoyable book, but it was a nice little snippet, and it was quite insightful actually to realise that there are some points in my life where I've been on the reward side of things, where I got a fancy job title and I thought, oh brilliant, now I've made it, which means I don't need to try as hard because this is my reward. But the answer is no, actually you've made it and now you need to try harder. It gave a really great example actually of people that get on a football team, and some people are like, brilliant, I'm a professional footballer now, and other people say, great, I'm a professional footballer now I need to really prove myself, I need to be the best teammate, I need to be the best coach, I need to be the best, hit every tackle. And I think that is where this kind of book really hit home for me, because when you're taught that working is in pursuit of retirement, where you'll magically reach a point where you can sit down and relax after all your hard work, you sometimes think that you've achieved that goal early, or that you've worked so hard that you've smashed your targets and now you don't need to do all the hard work. Whereas in reality, that just leads to unhappiness, because your expectations of an easy life are not aligned with reality. And it also means that not only will you suffer because of the difference between reality and expectations, it also means that those who are involved with you will also suffer. So my takeaway from this book is that servant leadership is the only kind of leadership, and if you are in a big role, then it's your responsibility to essentially empower all the other people around you. And if you're not in that role, you need to work damn hard to get into that role, and then when you're there, work harder. So if you're thinking, oh, I've made it, maybe it's time to look at the motives and your direction and purpose maybe. Thanks for watching, guys. This is my review of The Motive. If you want to watch it, listen to it, I'd recommend, audiobooks or something like that. If you want to listen to it, read it, whatever. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Catch you in a bit.